Talk a little bit here this morning about some of the events going on in Illinois, and I know last week that the Governor J.B. Pritzker held his State of the State. You know, we have a State of the Union, but we also have a State of the State, and there's so much more that goes on in that, including Governor Pritzker's idea of forming a budget of what he wants for a budget.
Yes, this begins the process where he said, he talks about what the revenue is. Here's my spending plan, and that becomes the starting point that the legislature works from. A state budget is essentially just a series of 1 year laws. That there are a couple of bills that make it up, but essentially it's just spending authorization for the next fiscal year, July 1 to June 30th, and so. This is the starting point. Constitutionally, he has to do this. He could just, send a written message to the legislature, but, that's not particularly good television. And so we normally have, a public address, and he lays out what he wants to do in the budget, combines it with, this is how great we're doing in Illinois, and here are some things I'd like to see enacted. They're working against a deadline of July 1st because that's when the spending authority runs out, for the current fiscal year. They will try to get it done by the 1st of May because it takes fewer votes to pass a budget that will take effect July 1st if you pass it before May 1st. It's just part of the state constitution that tries to focus most of the legislative activity in the spring, makes it harder to legislate later in the year. So, this starts the conversation. This is a very tight budget. We have, we've had serious budget problems. It has been a struggle since he became governor to get out of the hole that we got in with the budget impasse back during the Rauner years. We're pretty stable, except, the economy is slowing. It's uncertain what federal revenue is going to look like at, with what's going on in Washington. And so, this is a cautious budget, and he's kind of laid down the marker. If you want to spend more, then, show me your cuts before we'll talk, show me where you're going to get the money from. So that's the start of the conversation. It doesn't fix long-term problems like pension debt. It doesn't, it kind of puts off dealing with what's going to be a real fiscal crisis in mass transit in northeastern Illinois, which is a big deal because, that's the center of the economic activity in the state, and you just move a lot of people around in the various transit systems, and, they're poorly coordinated. They need more money, and, we're probably not going to fix it this year, but we're going to, to try and position ourselves. So it's, that's the start of the process. From the taxpayer's standpoint, there are no general tax increases. They're always, doing things on the margin, finding, adjusting a tax, moving funds around. We're going to delay transferring some money from the general revenue fund into the road fund, which, just essentially is putting it off until next year. But, these are not unusual things in terms of trying to come up with a balanced budget. So, $55 billion, and the bottom line says, well, if everything goes to, according to plan, we'll have, $200 million left over. So we shall see.
taking a look at this this budget, or the state of the state, it seemed to be broken down into two parts, and we'll talk about that second part in a little bit later in our show. But taking a look at the first part of this and the actual discussion on the budget, what were some things that stuck out to you as far as maybe not normal? COVID money was a big conversation last year. Governor Pritzker seemed very upbeat about the direction that the state was going. The budget was up, and then now all of a sudden this year it's a little bit more tapered expectations.
Yeah, it partially, revenue estimates are always, they go up and down, and we're reading tea leaves. But the biggest thing was, that the COVID money has come to an end, and we didn't do, a lot of cities, and particularly the city of Chicago, took a lot of COVID money and put it into operating expenses. And, this is essentially one-time money, or, it doesn't, it's not ongoing revenue. And when you build that into operations, then when it goes away, you've got a hole. And so, we have, limits on, their hiring freezes, their, belt tightening in terms of dealing with this. A major one, and which will be a fight, is we expanded healthcare to migrant adults without health care under the age of 65. And that's, depending on how you look at, $300-400 million expenditure that he has zeroed out, and that will, you will get pushback from particularly the Hispanic caucus and groups within the city of Chicago, although it's really a statewide issue. So out and out cuts have not been the norm. It's been, we're going to slow down the spending. Are we going to put all the money that we promised into the rainy day fund? Are we going to make the pension payments? Or, we've been making the new schedule under the state aid formula. We've been taking that and coming up with some extra money on top of that gets distributed on a need basis through this evidence-based formula we have. And this year, we're not talking, we're talking about meeting what the law requires. We're not talking about extra money. So it's, that's, we're not closing down departments or, laying off a lot of the state workers, but the pattern of, gradual expansion is, this is a halt in terms of that. And it could be obviously much worse if we have a significant decrease in federal money, which is, more than 10% of the budget. It's not, and a lot of this involves, matches that the state has to do. So that's more what it feels like. It's just that we're kind of leaving everything in place and kind of seeing exactly how things play out, rather than the expansion that has been taking place, which is, a lot of this is just continuing spending, inflation, salary increases, those sorts of things just add money. You have to spend more money to keep doing the same thing, and our revenue streams sometimes don't match that.
All right, we are being joined by Dr. Kent Redfield, Professor Emeritus of Political Science. And Dr. Redfield, we have to take our first break here, but special thanks to Landmark of Taylorville, who is sponsoring our live feed on YouTube and on Facebook. And we'll have more with Dr. Kent Redfield about the second portion of the State of the State and how different that was. And we'll see what Dr. Redfield has to say about that. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.
WTIM. This is Will Perkins with Taylorville Community Credit Union. Are you looking for a great CD rate? If you are, TCCU has amazing rates from our 7-month special to our 60-month CD. If you are looking for a great investment, now is the time to put your money to work in a TCCU CD. Our minimum deposit is $1,000. For more information, please contact us at any of our convenient locations in Taylorville, Pana, Hillsborough, Litchfield, or online at tccu.org. Dividends will be compounded monthly. A penalty for early withdrawal may be imposed. Fees could reduce earnings on the account. Member NCUA.
It is so cold. Troy.
Do I have to?
Come on, it'll be fun.
Fine. How cold is it?
It's so cold, I saw a penguin buying a space heater. I chipped my tooth on my soup. My thermostat put in its 2 weeks notice.
Look, a failing furnace is no joke, especially during the winter we've been having.
So right now, Jansen's Heating and Air can install a new high-efficiency furnace and air conditioner for way less.
We recently negotiated a rock-bottom price on a truckload of brand-new comfort systems.
This means you can replace your old, inefficient furnace and air conditioner as a pair and save $1,867.
These factory-fresh, fully warranted systems will sell out.
Call 562-5201.
JansonsHeating.com.
How about these? It's so cold, I opened my fridge to warm up. My shadow froze to the ground. My blanket asked for a blanket.
Don't quit your day job.
Your locally owned Scooters Coffee at routes 29 and 104 in Taylorville are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the WTIM Tornado Give Back promotion. Scooters Coffee will donate the following to the Taylorville Sports Boosters. For each Tornado varsity football touchdown, they're donating $10. For each three-point shot in varsity Tornado boys and girls basketball games, they're donating $3. And $5 for each home run scored by varsity baseball and softball team. The 22 local Scooters Coffee Taylorville, thank you for your business. Amazing people, amazing drinks, amazingly fast.
Hi everyone, Nicole Patrick here, your new local country financial representative at 917 West Bresser in Taylorville. I'm proud to recognize the Tornado student athletes that represent our community by being the exclusive sponsor of the WTIM Nicole Patrick Country Financial Player of the Game. During Tornado sports broadcasts this school year, WTIM announcers will select a player at the end of each game who will receive a certificate for being named our Player of the Game. Good luck to all the teams this season, and go Tornadoes!
Central Illinois Truck Service is growing thanks to you. Owner Perry Stantha here. Our new service manager, Jeremy Peters, and our certified technicians will keep your semi-truck engine rolling. Click my icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com.
SIU Family Medicine wants the best health for you and your family. Be a champion. Protect your loved ones. The SIU Center for Family Medicine of Taylorville is accepting new patients. Click their icon at TaylorvilleDailyNews.com to schedule your appointment.
WTIM. Welcome back to the WTIM Morning Show. Our sponsor is Landmark of Taylorville and People's Bank and Trust, where we put people first. And joining us here is Dr. Kent Redfield, Professor Emeritus of Political Science. And Dr. Redfield, talking about the state of the state from last week that Governor J.B. Pritzker gave. After the initial discussion on the budget, the second portion seemed, let's see, what are the words I'm looking for? Very targeted.
Yes. Well, I mean, we did the obligatory, here are the new initiatives, but there weren't, as of like 2 years ago, we talked about, we're going to do early childhood education, we're going to have a new agency, we're going to increase the spending, and there was nothing, particularly splashy in terms of this, a notable one in terms of expanding community colleges to offer 4-year degrees in in-demand career paths, kinds of curriculums. And so I think that's, that was important. But, the end of the speech was really a very pointed criticism of what he characterized as the Trump-Musk executive orders being, authoritarian overreach that threatens democratic institutions and norms. And so, that was a part of the speech that got a very positive reaction from the Democratic side of the aisle and a lot of boos from the Republican side of the aisle. But it it speaks to, in a lot of people's minds, whether or not is the governor happy being the governor of Illinois, or at a minimum, does he want to be on the national stage leading the resistance to what is going on in Washington under President Trump and Elon Musk, or does he have ambitions for running for president in 2028? And this did nothing to tamp down the speculation. When he said, I'm not speaking in service of my ambitions, but in deference to my obligations, all people heard was my ambitions. Where are you going, Governor?
Yeah,
so I was surprising, and I think in the tone and the intensity, I wasn't surprised that he talked about it, and obviously what goes on in Washington can have a big impact on Illinois' budget, but it also was obviously about the role that he sees himself playing going forward.
Yeah, definitely. With along the lines of we don't have kings in America, and I don't intend to bend the knee to one. Seemed like a very and I'm not even. It just seemed like very extra,
Yeah. So it's very it's aggressive language that's playing to the base, and the response from the other side was the same kinds of, was again aggressive, a lot of pushback, and it doesn't, it doesn't move the needle in terms of, where's the common ground? How do we solve problems? So I don't doubt the sincerity, but it in terms of, the citizens of Illinois, we need to, tend our own garden. We certainly need an eye on what's going on nationally, but we got lots of problems here we have to address, and we got to find some common ground to be able to work them through.
we have about a minute left, a minute and a half left. Republicans don't have a loud voice, but what was your understanding of their response to what was said during the State of the State?
Yeah, the two primary themes. One is that you're kind of whistling past the graveyard here. We've got this huge pension debt that's eating up so much of the budget, and we need to be focusing on cutting taxes, getting more economic development. So that the strong part of that was challenging some of the assumptions in terms of the budget, and whether or not we ought to be proactive in terms of going after changing the pensions. Now, the governor did mention he's willing to spend the minimum to fix the safe harbor problem with our pensions, but he's not interested in engaging in any of the efforts to kind of expand tier 2 and do those sorts of things. So, as you saw caution there, and I'm sure the Republicans agree with that. And the other part of that, again, was the pushback in terms of, this is alarmist, and, you're defending waste and fraud, and, we need to get our house in order kinds of rhetoric.
All right, Dr. Redfield, thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk to us. Always a pleasure to talk to you about some of the things going on behind the scenes as far as the political spectrum in Illinois. Thank you.
No, always happy to talk.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have much more of the WTIM morning show. This portion of our Expand Local News brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where we put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville. You're listening to WTIM, your information station, Big 870 across Central Illinois, 96.1 FM in Taylorville, 107.5 FM in Shelbyville, and 107.9 FM in Pana and Nokomis.
Your information station. WTIM.
The Big 870 WTIM Assumption Taylorville, 96.1 W241 CF Taylorville, 107.5 W298 CD Shelbyville, 107.9 W300 EH Payne and Nokomis.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. A nationally known conservative commentator and former law enforcement officer is joining the Trump administration.
Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent and conservative pundit, has been chosen to serve as FBI deputy director. President Trump announcing on social media, Bongino is a man of incredible love and passion for our country. Bongino would serve under Kash Patel, who was sworn in Friday as FBI director and has signaled his intent to reshape the bureau. Bongino was born in New York City and was an NYPD officer before joining the Secret Service. He then went on to work for Fox News before leaving to start his own show. I'm Julie Walker.
Federal workers facing a deadline this week. Elon Musk's Doge team directing them to report 5 specific things, bullet points of what they accomplished last week, or face possible dismissal. There is some confusion over the order, though, with some agencies telling employees to hold off on responding to the order. As the Trump administration pursues talks with Russia aimed at ending the war in Ukraine, a dozen leaders from Europe and the Canadian Prime Minister are visiting Kiev, marking the 3rd anniversary of the Russian invasion. Ukrainian President Zelensky says he's willing to resign if it would end the bloodshed and bring Ukraine